pause, the gratuitous. The end doesn't arrive with a bang. It's not a sudden, cataclysmic event that you can point to on a calendar. No, for a business, the end is almost never that clean. It's a slow, creeping rot. A series of small, almost imperceptible compromises that accumulate over time, like 1,000 tiny paper cuts. Each one, on its own, seems manageable. But together, they bleed you dry. For us, it started with a quiet hum of anxiety. A low-frequency vibration you could almost ignore if you were busy enough. It was the feeling I'd get glancing at our bank balance in the morning, a number that felt stubbornly static despite all the activity. It was the slightly too long pause from our finance lead in our weekly meetings when I'd ask about accounts receivable. That quiet hum grew into a deafening roar of panic. The transition wasn't overnight. It was a crescendo, building with every unanswered email to a major client about their overdue payment and every new invoice that landed on my desk with its own ticking clock. The anxiety became a physical presence in the room, a weight on my chest that made it hard to breathe. On paper, we were a success story, an absolute, undeniable rocket ship. We were the darlings of our industry niche, featured in trade publications as the company that was redefining the future of enterprise logistics. We had the vanity metrics down cold. We had contracts, big ones, with logos that any startup would kill for. These weren't flimsy letters of intent. They were thick, multi-year agreements, celebrated with champagne and optimistic press releases. Each one felt like a victory, a validation of our vision and our hard work. We had revenue projections that looked like a hockey stick pointing to the heavens. Our financial models, built with meticulous care, promised exponential growth. In board meetings, I'd point to that graph, and you could feel the excitement. It was a beautiful, seductive curve that made everyone feel like a genius. And we had a team of brilliant, dedicated people doing what we all thought was smart work. They were pulling all-nighters, solving complex problems, and pushing the product forward. They believed in the mission. They trusted me. And that, more than anything, is what kept me up at night. But the numbers on a spreadsheet are just ghosts. Revenue isn't cash. Profit isn't cash. A signed contract isn't cash. It's a lesson you think you understand intellectually until you're staring at a payroll deadline with a bank account that doesn't care about your projected Q4 earnings. They are phantoms of a future that might never arrive. That beautiful hockey stick graph? It represented a promise of money, not the money itself. It was an apparition, a mirage in a desert of negative cash flow, and we were dying of thirst. The reality wasn't in our optimistic financial models. The reality was in the pit of my stomach every time the phone rang, a jolt of pure adrenaline and fear. I started to recognize the numbers of our key suppliers. I'd let it ring, composing myself, rehearsing my lines. A cold dread that it would be another vendor, asking about an invoice that was now 90 days past due. It was always the same polite but firm inquiry. Just checking on the status of invoice 72493. They didn't have to say the rest. We both knew it was overdue. We both knew I had promised it would be paid last week. It was a strange kind of corporate schizophrenia, a public face of confidence and growth, and a private reality of terror and triage. The whiplash between those two states was exhausting. In meetings, we talked about expansion and market share. We'd debate new feature sets and international growth strategies. The board, looking at our revenue growth, would pressure us to hire faster, to spend more on marketing, to capture the opportunity. They saw the ghosts on the spreadsheet. Alone at night, I was playing a shell game with our bank accounts, moving phantom dollars around to cover payroll. It was a grim, weekly ritual. I'd map out the absolute necessities: payroll, health insurance, server costs. Everything else went into a second column. Then came the ethical dilemma. Who do we pay from what's left? The small, family-run design firm that had been with us from the start, or the massive, faceless software conglomerate whose service we couldn't function without. It felt like a betrayal every single time. What we didn't do, in our rush to celebrate those big contract wins, was read the fine print. Or rather, we read it, but we didn't respect it. Net 120. It was printed right there in black and white, We were so intoxicated by the top-line revenue number that we ignored the brutal reality of the payment terms. 4 months. We were effectively providing a 4-month interest-free loan to some of the largest companies in the world, and it was breaking our back. We were a small, high-growth company, funding the working capital of giants. That was the portrait of our implosion. Not a sudden crash, but a slow, agonizing squeeze. There's a beautiful, dangerous lie in modern business. It's called revenue. We worship it. We put it on charts. We use it to justify our existence to investors, to our employees, to ourselves. But revenue is an opinion. It's a forecast. Cash, on the other hand, is a fact. You cannot pay your rent with an opinion. You cannot make payroll with a forecast. Cash is the oxygen. You die instantly. The first step we took was to build what we called the 13-week cash report. Column 1, cash in. Column 2, cash out. The difference was our survival number. When you're staring into the abyss, clarity arrives with a vengeance. You see everything your business spends money on, and you see it for what it is. Either a tool for survival or a dead weight. We had software subscriptions nobody used, consulting retainers for people who sent a 1-page report, and snacks that could have fed a small army. When the choice is between canceling a license and firing a person, the decision becomes simple. We laid out every expense like detectives at a crime scene. We classified everything. The fancy CRM? Gone. Replaced with a shared sheet. The premium coffee? Gone. We bought a drip maker. Small cuts changed our culture. We emerged leaner and more honest. In our relentless quest for growth, for scale, for the next big thing, we had become obsessed with the wrong signals. We celebrated new logos, shipped features at a frantic pace, and presented beautiful upward-trending charts to our board. We were moving faster than ever, but we were running in the wrong direction. The engine was roaring, but the steering wheel was unmanned. Every dashboard we built, every metric we tracked, was internally focused. It was a feedback loop of self-congratulation. In the process, we had committed the cardinal sin of any business. We started to forget about the customer. They weren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. They were the entire reason we existed. But we had abstracted them away, turning their problems into tickets and their feedback into data points that were aggregated, sanitized, and ultimately ignored if they didn't fit our growth narrative. The silence from our happiest customers was deafening, because we weren't listening to the growing chorus of frustrated ones. I knew that surveys and analytics wouldn't save us. It was all filtered, delayed, and devoid of the raw emotion we needed to understand. I needed to hear it myself, directly from the source. So, I cleared my calendar for a week. I pulled a list of customers. Some who had recently churned, some whose usage had dropped, and some longtime clients who had gone quiet. And I started making calls. My script was painfully simple. Hi, this is the CEO of the company. I'm calling because I know we're in trouble. And I realize we've probably not been serving you as well as we should have. I'm not calling to sell you anything. I'm not here to make excuses. I'm calling to listen. The first few seconds of silence on the other end were always the most terrifying. Then the floodgates would open. The feedback was brutal and beautiful. One longtime user, a small business owner, told me, "You removed the bulk export feature last quarter. You called it streamlining the interface. For you, it was a line of code. For me, it was 2 extra hours of manual work every Friday. It broke my entire workflow." Another customer was exasperated by our billing. "I need a PhD in accounting to understand your invoices. I've called support 3 times, and each time they promise a manager will call me back. No one ever does." A third just sounded defeated. "Your support team is nice, but they can't do anything. Every simple request requires an escalation. It feels like you've designed the system to make me give up." Each call was a lesson in humility. We weren't failing because of one big strategic blunder. We were failing in 1,000 tiny ways every single day. But with this brutal honesty came a clear path forward. We didn't need a new strategy. We needed to fix what was broken. We immediately simplified our invoices, making them clean and understandable at a glance. We restored the removed bulk export feature within 48 hours. We held an all-hands with the support team and gave them a new mandate and the authority to back it up. Solve the customer's problem on the first call. We gave them credits they could issue, the power to process refunds, and direct lines to engineering for critical bugs. We empowered them to be heroes, not gatekeepers. And crucially, we closed the loop. We didn't just make the changes, we communicated every single change back to the specific customers who asked for it. I personally emailed the business owner who needed the export feature. Our head of support called the customer who was confused by the invoice to walk them through the new, simpler version. The effect was immediate and profound. They stayed. Not only did they stay, but their payments, which had been lagging, started coming in faster. Our day's sales, outstanding, dropped. They stopped being detractors and started becoming our advocates because they felt heard. They saw their feedback turn into action. Our Net Promoter Score began to climb, not because of a marketing campaign, but because we started doing our job properly. I shared every painful, humbling piece of feedback with my entire team. It wasn't about blame, it was about alignment. We had to recenter the entire company around the voice of the customer. Admitting our weakness, first to our customers and then to ourselves, didn't break us. It forged a stronger, more resilient bond than pretending to be invincible ever could. It reminded us that trust isn't built in boardrooms. It's built one conversation, one fixed bug, and one honest answer at a time. Before the fall, our financial statements were a work of creative fiction. It's a trap many young companies fall into. You start with a simple spreadsheet, then you add another and another. Soon, you're managing a web of interconnected files, each with its own logic, its own formulas, its own potential for human error. We weren't trying to commit fraud. We were trying to survive, to project the confidence we so desperately needed to feel. Our books were designed to tell a good story, not to reflect reality. We had a narrative for investors, a different one for the board, and a third, more optimistic version for the team. The truth, however, was buried under layers of complexity, a financial labyrinth of our own making. It was a system built on hope and manual overrides, where the numbers could be whatever the story needed them to be that day. We recognized revenue before it was earned, booking the full value of annual contracts the day they were signed. This inflated our top line, making us look healthier and faster growing than we were. It was a vanity metric, a sugar high that masked the underlying cash flow crisis. We were celebrating phantom profits while the real cash wasn't due for months, sometimes a full year. We capitalized expenses that belonged on the P&L. Software development costs, marketing campaigns, even office furniture. We'd find ways to argue they were long-term assets, pushing their cost into the future. This artificially boosted our short-term profitability. On paper, we were profitable. In our bank account, we were bleeding. And with every adjustment, every reclassification, we built a maze no one truly understood. Not our junior accountants, not our department heads, and if I'm being honest, not even me. The monthly close process was a heroic week-long effort of forensic archaeology, trying to piece together a puzzle with missing pieces and parts that didn't fit. But the bank doesn't care about your narrative. Creditors don't care about your story. They care about one thing: reality. They want to see a clear, auditable trail from revenue to cash. They want to see a balance sheet that actually balances. Our creative accounting was a language no one in the real world of finance was willing to speak. The day we embraced radical transparency was the day we started to heal. It wasn't a single meeting or a grand announcement. It was a quiet, painful decision made late one night, staring at a cash flow projection that showed us hitting a wall in 6 weeks. The storytelling had to stop. The truth, no matter how ugly, was our only way out. We fired our complicated spreadsheets and narrative-driven reports. We archived the labyrinth of Google Sheets and Excel models. It felt like a bonfire of the vanities. We declared financial bankruptcy on our old methods, admitting to ourselves that the system we had built to protect us was now the very thing that was sinking us. We bought simple, off-the-shelf software. One source of truth. No more side spreadsheets, no more manual adjustments without a clear audit trail. Every invoice, every expense, every payroll run was processed through a single system. It was humbling. The new software wasn't as flexible for storytelling, but that was the point. It enforced discipline. It forced honesty. The questions became brutally simple. What do we own? What do we owe? Did we make money this month or lose it? There was no room for interpretation. The balance sheet showed our assets and liabilities in stark black and white. The P&L showed a real profit or a real loss, based on revenue that was actually earned and expenses that were actually incurred in that period. We reconciled weekly, not monthly, not quarterly. Every single week we closed the books. Bank accounts, credit cards, accounts payable, accounts receivable. Every dollar had a name and a purpose. This relentless rhythm was excruciating at first, but it eliminated surprises. We knew our cash position to the dollar every Friday afternoon. This clarity gave us the power to act. If a product was losing money, we could see its negative contribution margin in plain sight. There was no hiding it. We had a simple rule: fix it or kill it. We analyzed the costs, the pricing, the customer acquisition cost. If we couldn't find a path to profitability within 30 days, we sunset the product. It was brutal, but necessary. We met weekly to face the numbers without blame. This was the hardest part, changing the culture. The financial review was no longer a witch hunt. It was a diagnostic session. The numbers weren't a reflection of personal failure, they were a reflection of the business's health. The question was never, whose fault is this? It was always, what does this number tell us and what do we do next? We went to our board and our lenders with this new, stark reality. We asked for help with numbers, not stories. We said, here is our exact financial position. It's ugly, but it's the truth. Here's our plan to fix it, based on these real numbers. We will report our progress to you every single week using this exact dashboard. We need your support, not for a story, but for a turnaround built on a foundation of fact. Debt, the double-edged sword. Debt is a powerful, seductive drug. In good times, it feels like a superpower. We treated our credit line like a checking account. We financed gear and used cards to fill holes. But debt is a promise, unforgiving when cash dries up. The friendly tool became a monster. Good debt funds assets that out-earn the payment. Bad debt finances operations and covers losses. We listed every creditor, amount, interest, and monthly due. We triaged, highest interest first. We asked for temporary relief. A few months interest only, a rate reduction. Breathing room. Rule 1. Never use long-term debt for short-term cash. Rule 2. Match term to asset life. Rule 3. Know the true cost. Section 7. Rebuilding trust. One invoice at a time. When a business stumbles, it doesn't just lose money, it loses trust. Trust is the invisible currency that makes everything work. Without it, every interaction fills with suspicion. It started with communication. We made the hard calls, proactively. We can't pay $10,000 this month, but we can pay $2,000 every Friday for 5 weeks. Can you work with us? Then we kept that promise. No matter what. We told the team the unvarnished truth, the cuts, the survival plan. The new plan was simple. We do what we say. Slowly, the tide turned. Terms improved. People chose to stay. Customers tested us again. Each small win was a brick of trust. Trust became our most durable asset. Section 8. Doing more with nothing. We had departments, layers, processes, many so convoluted no one remembered why. Then the purge, skeleton crew, no luxury of bureaucracy. Survival demanded speed and efficiency. We flattened, titles meant little. Everyone did everything. Universal ownership, not just headcount savings. We cut any step that didn't add customer value. Short stand-ups, less planning, more doing. Build the smallest thing fast, show customers, iterate. Failure became data. We learned more and moved faster with a fraction of the budget. Section 9. The view from the other side. A new foundation. There is a moment after the storm passes, when the wind dies down and the rain stops. You step outside and the world is washed clean. That is what it feels like to survive near bankruptcy. Smaller, scarred, stripped of vanity, but solid. Real. Built not on projections, but cash and honest numbers. A deep respect for the customers who saved you. Radical transparency. Fanatical customer focus. Allergy to waste. A healthy paranoia keeps you sharp. Growth returns. Slower, deliberate, funded by profit. It's a journey from illusion to reality. The hardest seminar, but it builds resilience.